In this video, we see about pterygium surgery. So initial incision. Initial incision into the body made at a point 2 to 4 mm from the limbus. This isolates the head for better visibility and easier access and safer excision of head. It allows rest of the conjunctiva to retract and leave the enough tissue for flaps to cover the sclera. Only a moderate tenectomy is suggested with excision comprised of involved fibrovascular tissue closest to the cornea. Avoid the muscle sheath entirely and take less tissue. So initial incision is 2 to 4 mm from the limbus. We have to incise the head of the pterygium and we have to dissect the subconjunctival tissue closest to the cornea only. We have to remain in position closest to the cornea because if we go peripherally we may injure the extraocular muscles. We can also use iris spatula to bluntly separate the pterygium tissue from underlying cornea. Excision of head. Excision of head done with crescent blade or equivalent from the limbal side. Head of the pterygium is delineated from the cornea underneath. In case of mild adhesions, pterygium can be easily separated from the cornea. Avoid starting the dissection too far away from the head or it will be too deep into the stromal lamella. So lift the head of the pterygium upward with the forceps to keep it taut and provide good cleavage plane. This achieves minimal damage to the cornea, less chance of Dehlen and better healing. Remnant tissue is meticulously removed with toothed forceps medial to the limbal direction always. So here with the limbs forceps we have to lift the head of the pterygium tissue and with the crescent we are bluntly separating the head of the pterygium tissue from underlying cornea and Tenon's capsule is excised. Next is harvesting the graft. We need to inject subconjunctival lignocaine to separate the conjunctiva from Tenon's tissue. We need to measure the graft size and conjunctiva is incised with tenon free, but it should not be very thin because if we take very thin graft, buttonholing of the graft will occur. So usually from upper bulbar conjunctiva we take the graft. This is incision that is making graft tissue. Next is positioning the graft. Positioning the graft should be done without it losing contact with the host surface. It is imperative to lay it flat on the moistened cornea with subconjunctival side down and slide it into the position on the scleral bed. The original limbal edge should be opposite to the cornea at the corresponding limbus. So it should cover exposed sclera entirely and slightly overlap the cut edges of the conjunctiva. This position will reduce the chance of graft contracture and subsequent wound descent. So limbus edge is opposite to the limbal edge and subconjunctival side is down and graft tissue should cover entire scleral bed and it should slightly overhang the conjunctival edges to prevent any graft contracture. Next is suturing the graft. So suture should be done with N0 observable suture. Use only number of sutures that will stabilize the graft in position, usually 7 to 8. Excess sutures may lead to increased inflammation. Knots can be buried to reduce the irritation on the lids. In place of sutures, we can also use tissue glue. Stalker line is corneal epithelial iron line at the edge of the pterygium. So each pterygium has head, neck, body, and in front of head there is translucent cap. In case of pseudopterygium, probe can be passed. So probe can be passed in pseudopterygium with history of severe conjunctivitis and chemical wounds. Whereas in case of true pterygium, probe cannot be passed under the pterygium. No such history will be there. DCT indications are lacrimal sac tumors, atrophic lacrimal sac in case of old age chronic dacryocystitis and TB lacrimal sac and severe dry eyes. Anesthesia. For infiltration, 2% lignocaine with 0.5% bupivacaine with adrenaline in 1 in 2 lakh is used unless there is medical contraindication for the use of adrenaline. So infratrochlear nerve that supplies the lacrimal apparatus is blocked first. The non-dominant hand marks the supraorbital notch and needle is inserted into the lateral edge of the medial third of eyebrow and advanced to just medial to medial canthus, and 2 cc of the drug is injected here. Tissue along the anterior lacrimal crest is infiltrated subcutaneously with block and needle enters the deeper at about 3 mm medial to medial canthus, and without withdrawing the needle, the drug is to be injected into the deeper tissue up to the periosteum, both superiorly and inferiorly, to block the nasociliary and anterior ethmoidal nerve. A drop of topical proparacaine is placed in the conjunctiva for intraoperative comfort. So after infiltrating the subcutaneous anterior lacrimal crest, it should enter 3 mm deep, 3 mm from the medial canthus, and it should enter superior and inferiorly into the periosteum to block the nasociliary and ethmoidal nerves. Incision. Incision is curvilinear, incision of about 10 to 12 mm in length and 3 to 4 mm from the medial canthus along the anterior lacrimal crest and along the relaxed tension lines. However, extension of skin incision above the medial canthus can lead to scars and epicanthal folds. So 3 to 4 mm from the medial canthus, it is 10 to 12 mm length incision along the anterior lacrimal crest. After incision, blunt dissection is carried on to separate the subcutaneous tissue and orbicularis muscle and reach the periosteum. A periosteal elevator is used to separate the periosteum from the bone and reflect it laterally. So here blunt dissection of the orbicularis oculi muscle is going. Next, as the periosteum is being reflected laterally, anterior limb of medial canthal tendon is noted attached to it just anterior to the anterior wall of lacrimal sac. The lacrimal fascia, which is contiguous with the periosteum, is adherent near the medial canthal tendon. Adherence, reflection of tendon aids in lacrimal sac dissection. The tendon is cut at the suture of Noether and medial wall of sac is bluntly separated from the bones of the lacrimal fossa. So this is medial canthus tendon. We have to cut it to assess the fundus of the lacrimal sac. After that, we have to separate the periosteum. We have to incise along the periosteum and periosteum separated, and this is lacrimal fascia covering the lacrimal sac. Sac dissection. Lateral wall is separated with the help of Westcott scissors by separating it from the orbicularis oculi. The closed blades of the scissors are then directed downward between the lateral wall of the sac on one side and orbicularis and periorbita on other. The common canaliculus need to be severed from the sac during this step. To avoid perforation of sac as well as to detect any inadvertent perforation intraoperatively, one can use fluorescent stain, viscoelastic or methylene blue. Next is sac amputation. Once the sac is dissected all around and separated from its soft tissue attachment, sac is amputated at its junction with the nasolacrimal duct. In cases of lacrimal sac tumor, amputation is carried out at a point as far as possible toward the distal nasolacrimal duct. Next is wound closure. Once hemostasis is achieved, the orbicularis is sutured back with 6-0 Vicryl followed by skin closure with the 6-0 Proliner, Vicryl or silk base on surgeon preference. Thank you.